And then, finally, there is something interesting about this. We've spoken about contact forces. Well, if I push the table, if I push something, I make contact with it and I push it along, that is a contact force, because the force is exerted by whatever is applying the force, namely in this case my finger. But we've got this odd thing that happens when, let's say, contact forces. This odd thing that happens when I bring two magnets together, like poles, the effect of those two magnets, the magnetic effect, the magnetic force, is felt before these two things are in contact. In other words, it is a non-contact force. And it's very much like gravity, because if the angel is sitting 10 meters above the ground, it will still have, or the angel will still have, a magnetic force, or gravitational force, sorry, exerted on it. And so therefore there's this force at a distance, that applies certainly in the case of gravity, and it applies in the case of magnetic forces. Sometimes this is known as action at a distance, or force at a distance. They are forces that operate even though there is no contact. So we might call it a non-contact force. And so it seems that all of the aspects, attributes of forces that we discussed in general terms and in specific terms as applied to gravity, those general features of forces apply to magnets as well. And so we are quite justified to talk about the magnetic force. Now, you have an activity which will involve a group discussion, in which I hope that you will start bringing together everything that you know about magnetism to try and round out your view of it. Now, we've discovered a lot of interesting things about magnetism, about the nature of magnetic forces, and one thing that we haven't spent much time on is looking at where they are used. I'm sure this will have come up in your discussions. Magnetics forces, well, we see them in fridge doors, and we see them in fridge magnets where you stick these funny little signs all over your fridge. By the way, don't get magnets close to your television monitor or your computer monitor, because those work on a magnetic principle which can be disrupted by a strong magnet outside of the magnet. Don't get them close to your computers either, because you can mess things up quite badly. So the magnetic force is quite important in our lives. We find applications of it everywhere, and new applications are being found all the time. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to magnetism.
Well, guys, that's it from us for today's lesson. But before we go, Zanel, what have you learned today?
Well, that it's amazing that a magnet can cause a force on a metal object without even touching it.
I know, hey?
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, we learn a lot every day. I'll see you guys in our next lesson. Bye.
Bye.